horror stories about this famous McIntyre building. Why was this something you wanted to get your hands on?
Several reasons. One, I love the town. Secondly, I own real estate right across the street. So I didn't want to walk out my door every day and watch somebody else develop the property. Third, as everybody knows, there wasn't a clear vision there. There was too many hands in the project. You had the public, you had the city, and you had a private group trying to develop it. As you know, it wasn't going very well.
Welcome to Seacoast Stories, a weekly podcast where we interview the people and businesses of New Hampshire and Maine. I'm Trey Farkas. I've produced some of the most popular podcasts in the world, and since moving to the Seacoast in 2023, I've fallen in love with the area and its inspiring people. And now, I am on a one-man mission to bring the Seacoast closer together, one podcast at a time. And on today's bonus episode, I speak to Anthony DiLorenzo, the self-made owner of Key Auto Group, a real estate mogul, and now a politician. Since moving to New Hampshire in 1983, Anthony has become a force. Since buying his first auto business in 1989, the New Jersey native has embodied the American dream to the highest of levels. He bought one dealership, and then another, and another. As his auto business grew, so did his real estate dealings. Fast forward to today, Anthony now owns 20 dealerships in 10 states, plus 11 auto body shops and a handful of Planet Fitness gyms in California. As a result, he's now one of the wealthiest men in the state, allowing him to put his money towards several Seacoast projects. In 2022, he contributed $4 million to renovations for the Whittemore Center, UNH's hockey arena. The following year, he ended a local saga when he purchased the McIntyre building in downtown Portsmouth for a sum of $9 million. In addition, he's a regular donor to Seacoast nonprofits like Gather and Crossroads House and arts organizations like the Music Hall and Prescott Park. He's a diehard supporter of New Hampshire and a defender of the American dream he pursued, which is why the 61-year-old is now devoting himself to making New Hampshire even greater than it already is. This past fall, Anthony announced a run for U.S. Congress. He's up for the first seat in the House of Representatives, where, as a Republican candidate, he'll compete against at least 8 others, including Stephanie Shaheen on the Democrat side. After building Key Auto Group into a behemoth, the Portsmouth resident is confident his business acumen will translate into the political arena. More from Anthony on that front to come, including his thoughts on hot-button issues like affordable housing, healthcare, the national debt, college tuition prices, and even the assassination of Charlie Kirk. And before that, we bring it to the Seacoast, discussing why the Hearth Market failed and how he hopes to turn the McIntyre building from an eyesore into a hotbed of local commerce. A reminder that, if anything from today's episode resonates with you, we'd love for you to press the follow button wherever you are listening to this episode so that you can get new podcasts straight to your phone every Monday. Now, here is Anthony DiLorenzo, where we begin the conversation with memories from his upbringing in Schenectady, New York.
I started this run for Congress. I sort of had to be reflective of who I am, what made me who I am. And so it goes back to family. And my family was very involved in encouraging me to work hard and promoting the country, the American dream, land of opportunity. So they spoke about that quite a bit. But as I think about it, they were not that far removed from coming over on a boat from Italy to a country they had never been to, didn't speak the language, pursuing opportunity. And so that's really stuck with me. And I got my first job when I was 8 years old, delivering the newspaper. And I enjoyed it because it gave me that financial freedom of having a little money. I mean, I only work for tips. People give me a quarter, but it was a big deal back then. And I've been working hard ever since.
So as you were growing up, did you have any big dreams for what you wanted your life to look like one day?
It's funny. When I think about being in Schenectady as a little kid, we were not impoverished by any means, but we didn't have a lot of money. It didn't matter. We had a great childhood because we were surrounded by people that loved us, and we had a big family and a lot of big personalities. It was fun. But I always dreamed of more. And I can remember that being 7 years old, going over to my buddy's house and just thinking about being successful. I didn't even know what that looked like. So I've had aspirations from a very young age to be successful.
So when people in your life, as you were perhaps moving through your teenage years, extended family at Thanksgiving was asking you, Anthony, what do you want to be when you grow up? What was your answer?
I never thought I'd want to be a congressman. So it's work in progress, right? I didn't really have an answer. I came to UNH in 83. I was working while I was going to school, and I determined that college wasn't for me. So I dropped out. I started working full time. I was working at a restaurant in Dover, New Hampshire called the Firehouse Restaurant. And one of my buddies started selling cars. So he encouraged me to try it. So I started knocking on doors and I got a job selling Toyotas in 1986. Never thought I'd stay in the business. Back then, car sales had a really bad connotation. We got paid to make as much money as we could on a customer. Wasn't customer focused. In other words, fulfilling people's needs. It was purely transactionary. And I didn't like it. I didn't even tell people I sold cars. So I never thought I'd stay in the business. But slowly, I worked at a few different places. And then we started to adopt this philosophy of one price selling. So we stuck the price of the vehicle right on the windshield. It was sort of revolutionary back there. Gentleman from Portsmouth Ford had started doing it as well. We emulated him. We actually stuck.
It wasn't always like that?
No.
Oh, wow.
It was a dance to get a price. It was not good. So once we started doing this, what it did is it took negotiating out of selling cars. We started paying the salespeople a flat commission, whether they sold a $5,000 car or a $50,000 car, they got paid the same. And so it took the art of negotiating out, and it forced salespeople to be more focused on the consumer and fulfill their needs. And it worked very, very well. And we still continue that today. So that was probably the big shift in why I stayed in the car business. And then we started to grow. So we started with a small lot up in Rochester, New Hampshire, quarter of an acre. I had saved up $7,000 from my job selling cars and opened a small lot and just worked hard. And it was hard. It was fun, but it was hard. I never knew. So I had some days I didn't know if I was going to make payroll the next day. I mean, we only had 2 guys working with me, but still I had to pay them. It was difficult.
Yeah.
But it worked out.
Yeah, I'd definitely say it's worked out. So much that you just said there that I want to get back into. So backtracking. Sure. So you attended UNH. Mm-hmm. Why did you want to go to UNH?
So my father had moved to New Hampshire. I was in Massachusetts going to prep school. And besides it being the only school I got into, I liked New Hampshire.
What were you so drawn to about New Hampshire?
It's just beautiful. And I actually liked the politics back then. It was a Republican state, no sales tax, no income tax. And it's beautiful. No traffic. I mean, I laugh at traffic here, because you go to Boston, try to get on Storrow Drive, that's traffic. So it's just a great place. The ocean, the mountains, skiing. I love to boat. I like to golf. It's a great place to raise a family. I mean, I can't say enough about New Hampshire.
Why wasn't college for you?
My father gave me very good advice as growing up. A lot of it I still refer back to, but one of the things he encouraged me to do, he went to Columbia, which is a liberal arts school. So he encouraged me to get a liberal arts degree. It was a bad move for me.
Yeah, I can't see that for you.
Yeah, me neither. Now I'm looking back, I'm like, I never told him I thought it was a bad idea, but maybe I will. If I would have studied business or finance or economics, I think I would have been more engaged and I think I would have benefited from it. So my CEO I hired to sell cars, he graduated from UNH and he's got a finance and economics and business degree. And he puts that to work every day at our business. And I can see the benefits of those degrees.
So you're a self-made man without a college degree.
I'm the only one in my family.
What would you say to, college is getting such a bad rap these days because of how expensive it is. And you have perhaps more kids not pursuing college just because it's not, a part of that American dream that you're so fond of. It's not in the cards for them anymore. So what would you say to someone who is perhaps in your position today that you were once in as a college kid who thinks, I have these dreams. I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to build businesses, but I want to skip the traditional route?
It's a tough question because of obviously what I did. I would encourage people to go to college or at least try it because it's very difficult to go back later in years to to go to college. And one of the things college does, you learn a lot from your peers. Okay. So that's a very important aspect of college. The second thing is when you get into the job market, there's a lot of people applying for that job. And if there's 30 people applying and 10 of them don't have college degrees, those 10 are probably going to go to the bottom of the list. So just from that perspective, it gives you opportunity. I believe that the cost of college has gotten out of control, and a lot of it's due to the amount of money that's available through loans and grants and whatnot. So the higher education has not had to be fiscally responsible, and it's been passed along in tuition to students. So it's a much different situation now than it was when I was younger because of the costs.
Do you ever see this upward trend of just rising tuition year after year, of that going back around and decreasing?
So tuition is going to start to level off just because enrollment is declining. So now you have a competitive atmosphere in the higher education system. So for instance, I was talking to President Dean of UNH, he's retired now, but he had said that they had froze their tuition for a couple of years. And all the universities are aware of the fact that enrollment is declining. Just the population is not what it was.
And we'll talk about affordability, overall affordability in a bit. But getting back to your story, what do you think are some of the biggest reasons, or what were some of the biggest turning points for you as to, when you were starting to grow this auto empire? Why was it working so well?
I was learning on the fly. So when I had very little experience in new cars when I bought Tessetta Chevrolet. So when we moved in there, we took all the new cars and parked them out back, and we filled it up with used cars because that was our background, me and my team. And we slowly learned the benefits of the new car business and the differences between the two. Primarily the incentives involved, cash or financing incentives. And obviously a lot of people want a new vehicle. So once we got comfortable with doing business, new car business, then we started expanding more. So we got, I opened another used car dealership in Portsmouth. Then we went out to Salem, New Hampshire, and bought a Ford Hyundai store.
Now, stepping back a little, I love the Seacoast, clearly. So I've only been here 2 years, and I feel like Portsmouth has changed a lot in the 2 years I've been here. So I'm very curious to hear, when you're here in the 80s and the 90s, building this auto empire. Can you just describe to me kind of what Portsmouth was like?
Portsmouth has definitely gotten more sophisticated, which doesn't say a lot from back then. It was a little gritty back then, but I love Portsmouth. I love walking through town. I love grabbing a coffee or having dinner with a friend. What's your go-to? It used to be Starbucks till they went out of business, but I go to Cup of Joe's a lot. Mm-hmm. I go to the Bagelry sometimes. The one across the street. What's the Works? The Works. Okay. It's called the Bagel Works. Yeah. Okay. And what's the one across the street from
the Works
place? Yeah.
What is
what's
that?
A while ago in there? Yeah.
Oh no!
I went there last week. That was good. Yeah.
No, it's the one in Market Square. Basically, its name is escaping me, which is so bad. But
so
that place with the popovers, right?
Popovers.
That's
exactly.
what we're talking about. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I love downtown Portsmouth, but back then it was pretty gritty, pretty seedy, like not a desirable place to live.
I would say I wasn't here when it was really seedy.
Okay.
But it has changed a lot.
Yeah. I can't imagine that at one point it wasn't desirable, because I walk,
neither.
Portsmouth to Kittery, across that bridge. It's gorgeous. Prescott Park, walking in there is amazing. I can't imagine a world where this wasn't.
People tell me people didn't want to live on the water in Portsmouth. It was a bad part of town. Like, to me, that's crazy.
All right. So fast forwarding a little bit, this kind of precedes, or maybe I moved. Yeah, I think I actually moved here around the time that this happened. The famous McIntyre building. I've heard horror stories about this famous McIntyre building that it used to be the post office, but anytime it's brought up, everyone just like rolls their eyes about it. You acquired this building in 2023. Why was this something you wanted to get your hands on?
Several reasons. One, I love the town, the city. Secondly, I own real estate right across the street. So I didn't want to walk out my door every day and watch somebody else develop the property. Third, as everybody knows, there wasn't a clear vision there. There was too many hands in the project. You had the public, you had the state, the city. The state was a little bit involved as well. And you had a private group trying to develop it. And it wasn't, as you know, it wasn't going very well. So I looked at it, and as it sits right now, it's not a very attractive piece of property. but I see a lot of potential there. So I see a lot of potential for outdoor space, public space. We're going to do some underground parking. Obviously, we have to get permitting. Underground parking there, and just develop the streetscape. Yeah.
But you've been running into zoning issues with the town, right?
I'm not going to, I've developed enough in Portsmouth to know I don't want to push the envelope on zoning. So I'm going to do what's allowed by right there. I'm not going to ask for anything different.
So any projected timelines of when you guys want to start making things happen?
We should get to the HDC early 26.
Okay.
So the plans are pretty far along.
Okay. So what exactly is your dream vision? Can you tell us like what kinds of...
So the zoning in Portsmouth pretty much dictates what you can do. First floor has to be commercial. So I want to surround the block with buildings and then have access to the center courtyard from every street. So you got Penn Hollow, Bow, Daniel Street, and then there's the church side. Theoretically, you could access there. You'd need some stairs. So I want the streetscape filled in, but access to the center courtyard, which I envision being public space and restaurants and coffee shops and whatnot sort of spilling out into that. So during COVID, you saw a lot of outdoor spaces developing. I think we could do that there, and I think it'd resonate with the community. Then there'd be a component of housing, possibly a hotel, and maybe some office, but I'm not high on office.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when you made this acquisition, what was the public's reaction to it?
It was really good. So the city officials all reached out to me. They were glad I got it just because I'm a local person and I've got experience developing in Portsmouth. They know I care about the community and wasn't going to do something offensive. So a lot of different people from both the former employees and current employees from the city they were gracious about it and offered to help any way they could. Obviously, I have to follow the zoning ordinances, but they were encouraging because the city's been trying to do something with this property for a long, long time. And I think everybody had fatigue over it. So I will bring it to fruition.
Well, right across from that building, and I wish you luck with that, right across from that building is the Hearth Market, which has just been rebranded to Buckley's now. As a businessman and a real estate guy, I'm curious to get your take on why the original concept of the Hearth Market. Why do you think it didn't work for Portsmouth?
I think it was, I know Mark put a lot of money in that place, so I think part of it was the amount that he put into it. Secondly, I don't think that the city was ready for the concept. So I wouldn't, it was sort of cutting edge. I wouldn't do that in the McIntyre facility. I do want to bring in new, different restaurants to Portsmouth. And I see the value of bringing in quality restaurants, not from a financial perspective, but just elevating that restaurant scene in Portsmouth. So that's one of my objectives.
Any specific kinds of restaurants you're thinking about?
I mean, I know what I like, but that's really not relevant. What do I like? I mean, I think the library's doing a great job, but I think we have room for another steakhouse.
Yep.
I don't know if we have room for another coffee shop. Maybe a sandwich shop would work well. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to be all upscale stuff, approachable, quality food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I heard the stat that there's more restaurant seats in Portsmouth than there are residents of Portsmouth.
I've heard that as well.
Do you think we need more restaurants?
I mean, we blow up to like 125,000 people in the summer. And now there's very few months that there are not a lot of tourists in Portsmouth. Probably January is the slowest month that I've seen.
What do you make of the current makeup of downtown Portsmouth?
I think it's lacking culture because it's become so expensive. You've driven away a lot of different people. It's for a young person to live downtown, it's almost unattainable. So that bothers me a bit.
Yeah. So downtown Portsmouth has gotten a lot of criticism from what I've gathered. So I'm, in the Portsmouth Chamber, and I'm part of this committee called Locals Belong Here. And our initiative is to remake the image of downtown Portsmouth and try to figure out why don't the locals, the people who have been here for a while, why are they resisting downtown Portsmouth? Why do they feel inclined to go on Facebook and leave nasty comments about downtown Portsmouth? And how can we make, just change the image and the perception of it? So I'm just very curious to know, how do you feel about the evolution of Portsmouth and what we can do to really, give it a facelift?
It's changed. Even in the last 5 to 10 years has changed a lot. Used to be able to walk through Portsmouth and see a lot of people, and I still do, but there's a lot more tourists in Portsmouth than there are locals. So I agree with that assessment that it's not as local friendly as it once was. I don't know what the solution is because it's an expensive place. I mean, it rivals Boston as far as the cost of living there.
Yeah, whenever I tell my out of town friends who all think I'm crazy that I live in the state of New Hampshire and I've chosen to, and I tell them the cost of it, they cannot believe it, how wild it is.
If you haven't spent time here, it's hard to understand.
Yeah.
But New Hampshire, Portsmouth specifically, but our state is amazing.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
The west end of Portsmouth, it really feels like that's where the energy is, and that's where you see people that and all the great spots that we have around here. Loaded question. I love to frequent Mojo's right here. There's a lot of great community hubs around here. Laney and Lou, great spot. I don't know if you ever go there, but
no, but Mojo's is my next stop.
Oh, yes. Another thing I want to ask you about. So a couple of years ago, you also put $4 million into the UNH athletic complex. Why was this something you wanted to do?
As I said, I went to UNH. I actually was at Mojo's. I walked into Mojo's and the coach of UNH hockey was sitting there, Mike Souza. It was August. It was probably almost 3 years ago. And he looked like, I'm like, what's the matter, Mike? And he was complaining that the facility was just very tired and it was affecting his ability to recruit. And anybody who's gone to UNH knows that hockey was a big part of the education. It was, when I went there, we were like top 3 in the country. So it didn't sound like it sounded like a fixable problem. So we went for a tour and this part of the arena that people go to is fine. But when you go in the back, like the locker rooms and all that stuff, it was bad. To the point when we were having a conversation in the locker room and I said, can we leave this room? It was not good. So I went to see the governor's office and I went to see the president of UNH, Dean, and I got the governor's office to agree to a private, public, and UNH partnership. So the 3 of us to come up with funding. And the university came up with like $7 million that they had already had earmarked for the building. I started raising on the private sector and I contributed $4 million. And then the governor put $8 million in the budget, of which they knocked it down to $6 million. So between the 3 entities, private, public, and the university, we were able to come up with the funds to renovate the building. And UNH just approved it last month. Their board approved the construction, so it should start pretty soon. But that's indicative of what New Hampshire is. New Hampshire is a community. People get together and solve problems, whether it's, I have 2 buddies that were very instrumental in rebuilding Crossroads in Portsmouth, which is a homeless shelter. Gather. Almost everybody I know in Portsmouth is committed to some sort of charity or some sort of community involvement to make the community better.
That's probably my favorite thing about the area.
I agree.
If you have a problem with something, you can basically throw up your hand immediately and say, I want to get started on this. And then you'll have 10 people that you can tell that idea to and will want to pitch in.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
And I could name so many instances of where that, Prescott Park is a very unique situation where it's free concerts. There's very few cities that do things like that. The music hall is another great example. We have just so much to offer, and it wouldn't be the case if it wasn't for the community helping, raising money, volunteering. It's amazing.
And I know you've put a lot of your dollars into many of those organizations like Gather, like Crossroads. You could be keeping your money and doing who knows with it. So why is it so important for you to put it back into the community?
I'm a giver. I love helping people. It just makes me feel good. And I never thought I'd be this successful. Like when you were asking me about how I was when I was 7 years old, I had an idea, but I've been more successful than I ever thought I would. And I enjoy helping other people. So, yeah.
Do you ever take a step back and just reflect on all that you've built and how incredibly far you have come since Schenectady, New York?
Nah, I don't. I just feel very fortunate. I feel fortunate to live in New Hampshire. I feel fortunate to have been successful. And to me, success, I find just working to make money. I mean, obviously everybody has to survive, but just to make money is sort of shallow. So you need purpose in life. And it's one of the reasons why I want to run for Congress is I appreciate New Hampshire and I value what we have here and I want to make it better and I want to serve the people in New Hampshire.
Yeah, perfect transition. So let's talk about this. You declared this fall that you were running for New Hampshire's first seat to run for the House of Representatives on the national scale. You just told us a little bit about why you wanted to get into this. You're a businessman without a political background. So why did you want to do this knowing that this is a completely new arena for you to get into?
It wasn't my first choice. Okay. I would have rather supported another candidate, which I've done a lot in the past. I've supported actually candidates on both sides of the aisle.
Cool.
I've supported the New Hampshire GOP and I just looked at the field and I was not satisfied that there were people that were running that could represent New Hampshire the way it deserves to be represented. I don't believe that they have, first of all the candidates that I've met, I like them all. I think they're all good people, but I think I offer more because of my business background. And I've been dealing with hard, difficult situations for 35 years. I've created over 1,000 jobs. I've worked in healthcare. We negotiated healthcare every single year, and it's a huge issue, as you can see in Congress right now. So the practical experience I have from running a business it translates very well to politics.
Yeah, what are some of those skills that you think really translate?
It's hard work. It's assessing problems and coming up with solutions. The difference between politics and the private sector is in the private sector, you cannot throw money at everything. Money is finite. In politics, you saw it under the Biden administration. When they needed more money, they just started printing it. And it caused a huge problem with inflation. So the way the private sector addresses problems is much different than the way politicians do it. And frankly, a lot of the politicians that get involved don't have the background. And we see on both sides of the aisle, too many professional politicians doing it for the wrong reasons. I'm doing it for one reason. It's because I love my state. I love my country. I don't really care if I'm a congressperson. It's not about ego. It's about giving back to the community. And I'm certain that I am the most capable person running for the seat.
So President Trump obviously is the one who made the transition from business to politics famous. Is there anything from his playbook that has worked for him that you will try to implement in your campaign?
I mean, I think President Trump he's done a good job on the issues, okay? Closing the border, lower taxes, domestic energy. I think he's comes from a background of getting results, which is the same type of background I come from. If in business, if you don't get results, you're not in business. Okay. So I admire that. And I admire his work ethic as well. The guy works hard. I'd like to see a little bit more improvement, a little more compassion out of the president. But overall, I think his business aptitude is translated pretty well to politics.
Why do you say that? More compassion?
Oh, the thing he recently said about Rob Reiner was just unacceptable. And it doesn't there's no reason to talk like that. I mean, when Charlie Kirk got shot and people were saying cruel things, I was vocal about it. You know, he was a Republican, obviously. Rob Reiner's a Democrat. I'm not going to change my tune. We should be compassionate about a man being murdered, not making negative comments about it. We should show some empathy.
When you saw what happened to Charlie Kirk, what was your reaction?
It's sad. It's sad that people feel that that's a solution, is killing somebody else. And I wasn't very knowledgeable about Charlie Kirk, and I really haven't listened to a lot, but I love the fact that he was going out, engaging our youth and having conversation. I think conversation is essential to progress. And the ability to have differences of opinions is so valuable. Our country is one of the few countries in the world where you can actually do that. I mean, there's other countries you get put in prison for having your own personal view or at least voicing it. So we should embrace differences of opinions and conversation, not shoot somebody over it.
I, as a podcast host on air and off air, I love listening to people and casting aside all judgment and just asking, what do you think about this? Why do you think this? And so I would just love to hear from you. How can we collectively just be more open-minded to hearing each other out, hearing what they have to say without criticizing them for it or thinking poorly of them? So
the first thing you have to do with any problem or issue is acknowledge it and give some thought to it. And so what you just said it makes a lot of sense. Why would you want to hate is obviously a bad thing. Why would you want to go there? Why not try to understand somebody? Why not embrace the fact that we have the right to freedom of speech in our country? Now, you're not going to agree with everybody, but at least be thankful that we have it and have enough composure and self-control not to go to negative emotions.
Yeah, I didn't know much about Charlie Kirk either, but it really rocked me to my core because I am someone who goes on stages and wants to be on more and bigger stages one day. And just to know that you can be on a stage like that, doing your thing, and someone from afar can just shoot you, that for everyone to see in person and both on social media and news networks afterwards, just like, I was mortified.
And it didn't solve anything. In fact, the movement got a lot more powerful because of Charlie's death.
Yeah.
Got a lot more, this kid's going to spend the rest of his life in prison unless they kill him. Right? Nobody won in that situation.
Just touching on something you said earlier, you said people often get into politics for the wrong reasons. What do you think some of those reasons are? For themselves, elevate status or whatever that, I'm sure there's different reasons, but for instance, you have politicians that stay in for 30 and 40 years. How old was Nancy Pelosi when she got out? And it's both sides are guilty, but I do not believe that was our forefathers' intention. Their intention was for people to work in the private sector. When they were done, donate some time to the government and move on, but not to have a career out of being a politician. So why do you think you're the best man for the job? Just because of my background. So my business experience, my problem-solving ability. In business, like I said, you cannot throw money at everything. You have to, not only do you have to identify the problem, you have to execute a solution, and then you have to monitor that solution and make sure that it's performing and impacting the way you intended it to. And if not, you have to pivot. Yeah. And healthcare right now is a perfect example. Healthcare in this country has been messed up since the Affordable Care Act went into effect. Okay. If the Affordable Care Act was so affordable, why do we need government subsidies to pay for it? It doesn't make sense. And I'm not trying to say that I think every American should have healthcare. I firmly believe in that. I don't believe that the current system is working for people. I feel it's out of reach for too many people. It's too expensive. And like a lot of things, housing is another perfect example. Housing prices in New Hampshire have outpaced wage growth 3-to-1. That's the biggest asset most Americans have is their house. And now you have generations that are unable to get into housing. What is going to happen to these people? Yeah, I can't. It's not even a thought. Exactly. I travel the state a lot, and I love traveling the state. We have a beautiful state, and I talk to a lot of people. You would be shocked about the number of people in different economic categories that are complaining about affordability. I talked to an attorney the other night, an attorney that should probably already be retired, that can't. Okay. I talked to a guy in the tech industry. Tech is a good industry. He's saying he's doing fine, but he's still struggling. So imagine the working class Americans and the youth. I talked to this one kid. He said to me, everybody's a kid to me, but I said, he said, my generation is the first generation that is worse off than their parents.
And I'm like, that's crazy. That's unacceptable. And there's too many people involved in politics giving these issues lip service. I actually solve these type of issues all the time at work. One of the things I enjoy most is when a problem comes up and people are struggling with it and they bring it to me, because it's a challenge to fix it and to make the situation better.
Well, it's clear that you're very passionate about a lot of this. Any concerns? Business and politics are not the same. At Kyoto Group, you can say, I want this done, and it can get done, not necessarily that way in politics.
A lot of people ask that question. And so I'm not disillusioned that I'm going to go to Congress and change the world. That would be sort of short-sighted maybe. But what I am certain of is that I will do a better job than anybody else that's running, because I've done it already. And I will talk about things that people aren't talking about. The national debt is a problem, okay? This administration, the last administration, have continued to pile on without addressing the situation. It is the Achilles heel of our country. If we do not start becoming fiscally responsible, we are going to crash. You cannot continue to spend more money than you take in. It's absolutely impossible. It's simple math, and nobody talks about it.
I know. I've always wondered about that, because you can go online and look at the national debt ticker just going and going and going, never stopping. And it always seems to be the issue that that's a back burner issue. We'll address it someday.
So look at it this way. We're $38 trillion in debt. You take everybody under 30 and divide it up, they all owe over $500,000. To start life, you're $500,000 plus in debt.
That's crazy.
That's what we're passing on to our youth, our children, our grandchildren. That's absurd. It's not right. And when I get to Congress, I will be very vocal about it. Okay. I can't change it by myself, but I'm telling you, if we pass a balanced budget amendment, the economy in this country would soar.
Why?
Because it's being fiscally responsible. The debt adds a lot of, it's a weight on our economy. Just servicing the debt is a significant amount of money. And the same thing, we have other issues that are fixable issues in our state, issues that face our state and our country. Social Security is going to be a problem. They anticipate 8-9 years before the thing's insolvent. We have to do so. In business, I used to say to people in business, I like problems. They look at me like I had two heads. Like, why would you like how? Because if you don't know about an issue, you can't fix it, okay? In business, I would fix issues. We have these looming issues like Social Security, like Medicaid, Medicare, like the national debt, and people are not doing anything about it. And the voters are also culpable in this because they're not vocal enough. We should be voting with our interest in mind. Okay, we have a delegation right now representing New Hampshire. Recently, there was a bill. It was the largest tax relief in American history, okay? Our entire delegation voted against it. Most people don't even know that. It's ridiculous. There was funding to secure the border. They voted against that. No tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime. They voted against that. Do you really think that represents what New Hampshire people want? I don't. So that's why I'm getting involved, because we're not being represented properly. And the issues that are facing us are fixable issues, but not by people that are just going to give lip service to them. I've got nothing to lose, okay? When I come home from Congress, I'm just going to continue to live my amazing life, okay? So I've got nothing to lose, except I care about our state and I want to make it better.
What would you say, which issue you personally care the most about?
I care about the youth. I care about the American dream. So I want to see healthcare is a fixable issue. I want to focus on affordability issues. Now, a lot of people use that word and can't really articulate it, but there are a lot of issues. Energy is an issue that's going to really impact our state, because if you think about economic expansion, first of all, you got just families not being able to pay to heat their homes. So that's the obvious part of it. But then if you think about economic expansion, why would a company want to come to a state that has one of the highest energy costs in the country? So we've got a situation where we're deterring economic growth because of this energy costs. Now, we have a lot of positives in New Hampshire. We have an exceptional workforce. I would put our workforce against any workforce in the state. Our state is beautiful. We have no taxes, no sales tax, no income tax. So there's a lot of positives. But we need to fix the housing issue. We need to fix energy. We need to bring in more business to provide young people with meaningful, gainful employment.
To bring it Seacoast specific, housing is probably the number one biggest overarching issue, or the thing that people get the most riled up about. So if you are elected, what would you do to address the housing crisis here?
So a lot of it falls on the state, because housing in New Hampshire is, Congress is a federal job. I would work hand in hand with, I have a good relationship with our governor and the legislature. I would work hand in hand, encouraging. The first thing that has to happen is we have to have communities that are willing to provide affordable housing to people. A lot of communities, again, give it lip service, but have zoning that doesn't allow for basically density, smaller houses, smaller lots. In order to get things that are affordable, you're going to have more density and smaller houses and smaller housing lots. It's just one portion of it. We could get lower interest rates through federal programs. We could get lower down payments. We could encourage lenders to focus on first-time home buyers. That's not a subsidy. That's an investment in our youth. Okay, because if these people do not have assets when they get my age, we're going to be really paying for them, right? So why not help a young person get into a house, and from there, they start climbing the ladder, just like I did. I mean, my first house I bought, it was $180,000. It was a 3-unit apartment house. I lived in the worst unit. I had to recarpet it, take all the wallpaper off it, repaint it, basically fix the thing up myself. But at least I had the opportunity to do so. I want the youth of our state and our country to have the opportunity for home ownership.
Yeah. How do you think we can attract youth here and ultimately get them to stay here?
So one of my thoughts is I would love to have a program with the university system and private-public partnership where businesses get together and we say something to the effect that if you go to UNH and then stay here for 5 years and work in New Hampshire, we will help you with your tuition. Encouraging people, because that's what I did. I went to UNH. I came to New Hampshire to go to UNH. I love New Hampshire. I got settled here. I got a job, started raising a family. 43 years later, I'm still here. So if we can get these younger people to get roots here, it will benefit our state, because we need our population in New Hampshire is fairly old. We need to retain our youth, and we need to attract youth.
Yeah, one of the first issues you brought up was healthcare. If elected to Congress, what would you plan on doing to improve the state of healthcare?
So the system is fairly broken. So I would concentrate on the areas that need improvement. But one of them is price transparency. Well, I'll give you an example. I went to a local hospital to get an MRI. I specifically asked them how much it was. The answer was, we have to check with your insurance company. Now, how do you not know? If somebody comes into my dealership and asks me how much something is, I have to tell them how much, and I'm happy to tell them what it is. Okay. 2 months later, I get a bill for $6,000 for an MRI. Wow. And I had a high deductible. I had to pay $6,000 out of pocket. I was talking to a buddy of mine who's in the health field. He's actually got a facility in New Hampshire. My next MRI was $600. So when you don't have price transparency, it's a huge cost to healthcare. Basically, what the provider is doing is trying to get as much money as they can out of the insurer for the cost of the procedure. So lack of competition results in higher prices. So price transparency, competition. In New Hampshire, we have two, they say 3 health insurers. It's not enough. The hospitals are getting gobbled up by big hospitals, so there's not competition there. There's a lot of burdensome regulation concerning healthcare. One is, are you familiar with the middleman in the drug industry?
No.
The largest buyer of drugs in the United States is Medicare. There's a law that says Medicare cannot negotiate directly with the drug manufacturers. Who in their right mind would do that? So we pay a middleman. 50% of the cost of drugs go to the middleman. It's absurdity.
Wow.
So a lot of this stuff isn't sophisticated, but it takes a will to fix it. The reason why this situation exists is because of special interests, lobbyists. A lot of these politicians rely on special interests and lobbyists to fund their campaigns. And then you get these laws that reflect that. All of these issues are not partisan issues, okay? It's not a Democrat issue. It's not a Republican issue. It's a United States issue. It's a New Hampshire issue. Everybody should have affordable health care in the United States. And it's attainable, but it's not going to work under the current system. We've had the system for too long, and all the politicians are doing is throwing more money. And the money is not even going directly to the consumer. They're cutting checks to the insurance companies. The system incentivizes higher costs. It does.
You're very adamant about the state of political polarization in the country, and that it's gotten too far in terms of the divide between Republicans and Democrats. So if you were elected office, how would you go about trying to bridge the gap a little and show us we're all Americans?
I tell people I've never approached the problem by starting out, what party are you from?
Right.
Okay, I'm just looking I will work with anybody to solve an issue. It's mind-boggling. And it surprises me, even when I talk to people I know in Portsmouth or throughout the state, and I talk about my campaign. Well, I'm a Democrat. What does that have to matter? Why don't we talk about who is most qualified to address the problems facing our state? Why does it have to come down to, I'm a Democrat, I'm a Republican? How about I'm from New Hampshire, and I've seen what you can do, and I support you because I know you'll put those same efforts and ability into making my life a better life, higher quality life. That's what it's all about. It's not about partisan politics.
When did it become about partisan politics? Because I feel like
really after Clinton, I think. Clinton had a balanced budget, which I give him credit for. Okay. He had a balanced budget. I think after that, and really it got very intense with Biden and Trump, their election in last cycle. So that's when it really culminated.
Yeah, so I'm 30 years old now, and I remember in my childhood when George W. Bush was president and when Obama was president, I don't really remember politics being a controversial thing, something that you would, if they were a Republican or Democrat, you make assessments about the entirety of their character based on their political party.
It's ridiculous. So I'm fortunate that my sisters, my daughter are Democrats. So I can't villainize my family. So I actually have to talk to them. And I enjoy talking about it, politics. I enjoy getting their perspective. Now, we don't always agree. In fact, more often than not, we don't agree. But at least we can have healthy conversations. That is not the case in federal government right now. It is polarized. Healthcare is an important issue to everybody in this country. These people should be doing their job, working together to fix the problem. And that is what I intend to do when I get to DC.
You mentioned your family. So this is something that I think a lot about as we talk about youth. And I know a big problem in today's world is the erosion of the family units. Divorce rates up, marriage rates down, childbirth rates down. And so I'm just curious, you're a family man. I've heard you say that your 3 children are your greatest accomplishments in a life that has been full of many accomplishments. Why do you think this has happened? Why is the family no longer at the center of America like it used to be?
I don't know if that's the case. Marriage is a very difficult thing. Being with one person all the time is it's hard. I don't think the family, in my opinion, the family isn't going away. To me, it's the most important thing. I look at my whole life, I look back at my family when I was young and all these people loving you and supporting you and encouraging you. I think it's just a very important part of growing up and beyond. So I encourage people to get married, have children, have a family. It's been, having children's the best thing, like I said, by far I've ever done.
Yeah. Why do you say that? Because I know I have so many friends in my life who are 30s, not sure if they are going to have kids.
I said before I had kids, I said to this guy, I was working with him selling cars. He had 2 kids. I said, I'm not ready for kids. He said, you're never ready for kids. And he was right. But the joy it brings, the unconditional love, watching them grow up, watching them change, watching your influence on them, watching their unique personalities. I mean, I have 3 children. I have a 29-year-old daughter and I have a 7 and 10-year-old sons. The 2 boys, they're within 2.5 years of each other. They're best friends, but totally different. It's just amazing. And every moment I spend with them is amazing.
Well, I wish you luck on your campaign. I have one final question for you, and it's very simple. Why are you optimistic about the future of New Hampshire?
I'm a very optimistic person. I always look at things optimistically, and we have a lot to offer. We have a lot of things to be proud of. Our political environment, our no sales tax, no income tax. Like I said, the state is beautiful. The proximity to Boston is excellent. You can be on the ocean one minute and 3 hours, 2 hours later, be up in the mountains. There's just so much New Hampshire has to offer. It's a very unique place. And the people in New Hampshire are great. They're unique. We have a great, like we were talking about community earlier, we have a great group of people in New Hampshire.
Anthony DiLorenzo, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
That's Anthony DiLorenzo, the owner of Key Auto Group, a local real estate developer, and now a politician. To learn more about Anthony and his political campaign, you can visit DiLorenzoforcongress.com. At Seacoast Stories, we won't interview politicians too often, but in an election year, we think it's important to hear from our local voices. We believe in balance, and since we've heard from the Republican side this time, we'll be sure to hear from the Democrat side in a couple months. A reminder that if you want more from Seacoast Stories, you can now subscribe to our newsletter on Substack. Many have requested this. We finally have it. You'll get free posts every week, including some additional thoughts on episodes. And if you wish to become a paid subscriber, you'll get plenty of extra benefits, including special access to our Instagram Close Friends, where I will take you behind the scenes of the Seacoast #1 podcast. It could get a little unhinged in there, so you're definitely going to want to get in on that. For more info, just visit the link in the show notes. Thank you for listening, and I will be back same time next week with another Seacoast story. Until then, have a great week. Live free or die.